So, hello, welcome to another episode of 5 Business Rules. I'm Nicole Krug, founder and digital strategist at Socialite.
And I am Monica Jansen, head kick-ass copywriter and strategist at Jansen Communications.
And if you have been following social media at all, you know that stories are the big thing these days. And Facebook has even come out and said that they think in 2021, their network is going to be nothing but videos and stories. And so now Google is getting into the stories game, which is actually really interesting because they've tried and failed a few things about social media when you go, but this one's interesting. It might actually have a go.
All right, well, let's dive into it. So let's start with the basics. What is Google Stories?
Okay, so Google Stories are small chunks. They are specifically for mobile. Okay, so it's not something that's going to show up in your on your desktop feeds or anything, but they call it snackable content. And they give the example that mobile users want to consume something in small chunks when they have a couple of minutes. Like think of you're on a subway, you've got a quick ride and a few minutes and you're skimming through your phone. And so it really works out that it's a little slideshow, very much like the way that you can do text or images on Instagram and write things over it. And so they recommend having about 4 to 10 slides. No more than 10 words on each one. And so it's just something to skim through and get an overview of what content is.
Oh, wow. You can do a lot actually with Google Stories. That's really cool. So where do you view Google Stories?
Okay. So I said that it's only on your phone, and I will tell you, even that this is new. This is something that came out in summer of 2020. And quite honestly, I haven't even seen them popping up in my life because I've been looking out for them when I'm looking things. But supposedly they should be showing up. They can show in search results. Think of it as like when you're doing Google Images or those rows. They can show up that way. They can show up on the side of Google Discover or Google News when you're scrolling through. It's if these take off, I expect they'll start going into all aspects of Google. But right now, think of it especially images and Google News.
Okay, so as a business owner, how can Google Stories help me? What's it going to do for my business?
That is the question of the hour, if you will, because it's so new, the jury is out. So here's a couple of things to think about, because one thing in the current state of Google search engine land, right, they are sending less people to websites, meaning that they want to answer like all these snippets. When you say, what is branding? And they just have that definition right up front. They're answering and keeping it for you. And so the stories is kind of another way that they're entertaining people and keeping it on Google. So it's actually a big question of whether it's actually going to end up sending traffic to you. However, what's really interesting about this is because, like I said, stories has taken over social media. And so if this does go as a way to view, think of it as like, I want to say, what are 5 things I can do in Denver, right? Oh, cool, look. And there's an image that you can just go through. Right now, it's such a new thing. It's open content. So you actually have the ability to kind of get in at the ground floor and put content out there where not a lot of people are doing.
Yeah, and help define what actually Google Stories is. That's really cool. Okay, so what should Google Stories include?
Okay, so think of it as, let's say I was going to do a story for this video. So we have 5 tips. So I would have kind of a cover page or a cover image on what was it about. I would have a slide for each tip, and then I would probably end up saying, hey, get more and watch the video. So it's going to be very, like I said, no more than 10 words or so, very quick and consumable content. You can include videos in there, only 15 seconds, and only one link. So you can't, like, they, good and bad, but keep it visual.
Okay, all right, which makes sense, because that's what stories just like on Instagram and Facebook. All right, so if I want to create Google Stories, where do I get started?
This is something that WordPress website people should use. Yes, there is. So technically it is done through what Google calls AMP, Accelerated Mobile Pages. And you could code it on any site, but nobody really wants to bother this. This is going to be effective because in July, they released the beta version of the WordPress site. And it's actually super simple to do it there. But that's really where you should go. If you've got a Wix or a what have you, maybe wait.
Shopify.
Yeah, this is probably like, it's going to be a hard thing for you to do.
So it's kind of limited right now. And well, I'm sure that'll change.
Sure.
Like everything
So
else.
it'll like, if it ends up flourishing, everybody's going to have an app. But this is under the umbrella of things to watch and see. That might be a good opportunity to get in sooner rather than later.
Yeah, sounds like it. Very cool.
So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.